Okay, hello. This is the Sangha UK, and today is October 6th, Sunday, and we're going to be talking about noble speech versus ordinary speech. We're also going to be talking about the realm of the deathless, and is there any value in thinking about how our actions affect the future versus thinking about what are our actions doing right now? So we'll go ahead and start with the concept of here and now, and what does that even mean, and what is the current reality that we're in, right? So the first thing to note is that when we're thinking about the past or we're thinking about the future, these are always, 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 always conceptual thoughts that we're having. So even if one has the thought, I know who's going to win the presidential election, and they think, oh, yes, I think Trump's going to win, or Kamala's going to win, or some third party is going to come take it, right? Even if that thought ends up being correct and true, it is still a concept, it's still conceptual, it's still made up. And that is the thing to recognize, is that you're making up these concepts in your mind. And when you're making them up is here and now, essentially. And so this idea of thinking about the here and now, looking at your actions in the here and now, bringing yourself back to the here and now, it's really something that you already are in. You already are right here, right now, right? When we talk about reminding ourselves to come back to the here and now, you're always in the here and now in a sort of way. But these reminders are to help facilitate the practice to develop the qualities of the mind and to develop anapanasati, to develop friendliness, and to develop wholesome thoughts. Because if we're always thinking about things that are outside of our realm of control, then we're not giving attention to things that are within our control right now. And the truth is that you can make a change right now. And so you had brought up the idea, Deidre, of, well, what about how are our actions going to affect the future? And the point isn't to just do actions that are going to negatively affect the future, but to do actions that we know are wholesome right now in this present moment, because that's the only thing that we can have some bit of accuracy on judging, basically. Is like, is this thought wholesome and worthwhile right now? Is this true right now? Is basically what we're asking. And if we're getting stuck thinking about the future and thinking about, okay, well, this thing that I'm doing right now, such as, oh, I'm just taking it easy, I'm just taking a break, oh, that's going to prevent me from getting some nice job in the future, or that's going to prevent me from, doing something with my life that I need to do. That is actually what is preventing the mind itself from calming down, chilling out, taking it easy, and being in a wholesome state. And what I like to tell people is that if you want to be happy in the future, if you want to be at peace in the future, if you want to be calm in the future, the best way to practice that is to do it right now. Because we don't know how our actions are going to shape the future. We can take guesses again at it, right? And we can conceptualize. We can even get quite good at conceptualizing, right? You know, there's these people that get paid a lot of money to predict the election accurately, but then every once in a while they get it wrong. But that's just the way the world is things are always changing in such a way that you can't always predict how things are going to go. And there's another point that I'd like to make about the here and now, which is that even in our current reality, we have a delayed response. Dhammarato, of course, loves to talk about this, is that, you know, cats have a very fast reaction time compared to humans. You know, if a snake is attacking a cat, the cat will swap it out of the air and be able to handle that. Whereas a human is much slower to react. And you know, we can look at this in a way. It's like when you get like cut on your finger, you don't feel that cut immediately. First, it goes to your nerves, and then it travels up through your nerves, and then through your spinal cord and into your brain, and then you have a reaction to it. So when we talk about being in the here and now, it's really about being in the mind and what the mind is experiencing. It's not actually being with that finger, with where the cut is happening, right? It's about being with where the cut is happening up here, right? You know, this idea of being exactly here where everything that this body is experiencing, that's almost an extreme. So that's why we bring it to the mind. Because, you know, different people have different reaction times. Pilots, I've heard, have quite fast reaction times. But anyways, Deidre, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Whoop. Yeah, quite slow opening the mic. I'm a human. Yeah, I was wondering, because if you want to be happy in the future, be happy right now. If you want to have peace in the future, obtain peace right now. So it's more like, you know, I'm finding sometimes a hard time to find the discipline to meditate every day, or at least several times a week. So what I sometimes do is I plan in the week. Okay, on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I go to yoga. On Thursday, then I do. So like, I plan this. So this is something like an action. The planning is an action right here, right now. And it makes me like reminding myself during the week that this is the path I want to go. I mean, this is what heedfulness. I want to do this. I want to move on. So what about those actions right here, right now?
Yeah, sure. So you make an excellent point, is that we can still make plans. Of course, you know, you can break that down, though, as how you make the plan, you know. Are you having the plan, oh, I'm going to go get married? Or are you having the plan, oh, I'm going to go talk to that girl over there or that guy? Or are you already skipping to the marriage thoughts in your head, these sort of daydreams, right? Are you having the plan, oh, I'm going to go to the beach? Or are you having the plan, oh, I'm just going to go out? Don't necessarily have to go to the beach, right? So cutting up our time like this and recognizing that we can train the mind to not be so involved with planning things, and more so be more open and adjusting to the way things are. Because on our way to the beach, it may start to rain. And then we decide that we want to come home. But anyways, Luke, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mikey. Yeah, I was just wondering, like, so are we discounting the idea of karma here? Are we saying we're like, let's say, I think I'm going to cook for the monastics tomorrow, take it to the monastery, offer it. That's going to bring me good results. I don't know what, but yeah, if I believe in doing good deeds are going to bring me good results, then I think planning for the future is going to bring me, like the idea of doing that in the present moment, it brings me joy. So
yeah, but when does it bring you the results? It brings you the results right now when you're planning to make a meal and take it to the monks. That's when you're happiest.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
It's when you're thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that's almost like the results of the karma right there, rather than well, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? So
you may take the food to the monk and it ends up the monk is allergic to whatever you fed them and they fall over on the floor and now you feel terrible.
Yeah, good point. I'm not the best cook in the world, so yeah, that's very possible. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks.
Sure. So yeah, we can't ever know. And this is actually a good time to bring up the idea of perfection. This is actually a word I almost never hear Dhammarato use, but you'll hear some other bhikkhus and people use it every once in a while. As this idea that, we don't have to be perfect. We talk about right noble speech, right noble action, right noble thoughts, not perfect. You don't have to have a perfect practice. And I'm sure you've heard that saying before, is practice makes perfect. But there's never been a perfect practitioner. Not even the Buddha was perfect in his practice. But then there is, and we're actually dipping into the topic of noble language here too. There is the way a noble might use the word perfect. When a noble says, everything's perfect right now, just the way that it is. That's basically the same as saying everything's okay, everything's just fine. Right? There's not this seeking, this wanting for things to be different than how they are. And that's what creates a sort of perfection in the mind. Ajahn Sumedho, he tells this story that, he used to tell people, I try to tell them that they're perfect and nobody believes me. But this can create a lot of dissatisfaction in the mind, is that when we think there's something wrong with us, right? Where there's this judgment. And so I'm not necessarily saying to use the word perfect in your vocabulary, but to play around with your vocabulary, to play around with the words that you're using and see it as a fun game. Because you can't have perfect speech. And, even speaking on the Dhamma, about the Dhamma, we're already straying a bit from the Dhamma because the Dhamma has qualities that can't be described, that can't be thought up, that can't be concocted. It is the unconcocted. And when we're talking about the realm of the deathless, the Buddha said to the bhikkhus, you do not want to be reborn. Stop being reborn. And the way Dhammarato puts it is, that means right now. Stop being reborn right now. And this is what it means to be deathless, is that when you're no longer born, there's no death. Because whatever was born dies, and then that's it. Thich Nhat Hanh put it like a cloud never dies. This is the kind of noble language that Thich Nhat Hanh would use. The very, poetic, we're all clouds. And then you have some people that take it too far and say, oh, the body is a cloud of sensations. So what does it mean to be like a cloud that never dies? It means that there's no clinging to what's happening. There's no wanting for things to be different. There's no dissatisfaction that the cloud turns into rain. Yeah, your body will die, it'll get sick, it'll grow old. But it's not going to disappear, at least not as far as we know. It'll turn into something else. New bodies, in fact. You came from stars, you may as well go that way too. Who knows? I don't.
Maybe you turn into a cloud.
Yeah. I have a friend who was asking about contemplation of death recently. And yeah, I mean, we're covered in dead stuff, dead skin all over us, dead hair, dead bacteria inside of us, dead cells. And there's actually great benefit to death, right? Cancer is when cells have the mechanism to die turned off, and they just keep reproducing and reproducing and reproducing, and it creates a tumor. Oh, it's so wonderful that people die. But it's the fact that they don't enjoy it that brings them suffering or dissatisfaction. That's the noble term, right?
But we're not supposed to help them die, though. I mean, we're not supposed to say, well, I'm going to do you a favor and I'll just kill them.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we don't have to kill anybody. They'll die just fine on their own. So yeah, what the Buddha says, stop being reborn, die now. But when we're talking about death, we're talking about dying in the mind, not the body. We're not talking about cutting up the body like how we cut the finger. We're saying to see this as always changing, out of your control, not you. Being able to recognize this and see this clearly is what brings one to the realm of the deathless. And it's, in a way, a realm that one can, we could say, go in and out of, or see in and out of. Sometimes we cling quite heavily to the body, but when we see clearly, we don't. And the easiest way to develop that seeing is to practice it here and now. Yeah, go ahead, Deidre.
How would you define death then, or deathless? Is it like having no thoughts, or is just no clinging, no resistance? Just being.
Yeah, it's not necessarily having no thoughts. It's more so not seeing you in the thought. You know, so we can break it down on a scientific level if we want to and say, oh, the thought is just a chemical reaction. Or we can break it down on another level and say, oh, the thought is just an old habit passed down in one way or another from society or our parents. I mean, even the words that we're using, the language that we're speaking, we didn't create any of this. But putting the you in there, that's what puts the fear in there. Saying that if this thought dies, then I'm dead. There's also kind of a recognition that there's more than one way to see it. And this is sort of the noble view, is that there is no solid defined view. And a noble can sort of see from many views, or can not be bothered by any views, we can say.
So would you say that being as fluid as you can be in your views or in your opinions or in your viewpoint or whatever, how malleable you are in there?
Yeah, so basically use words and use language that open things up for you. This actually makes life more enjoyable and, in a way, more exciting. When we say, oh, I'm going to go to the beach, and we tell our husband or our wife, oh, I'm going to the beach, and then we decide we're not going to go to the beach, and we get back, now we have to explain to them why we didn't go to the beach.
As far as planning, right? Like sometimes if you don't plan right, say you're going in the wilderness and you didn't bring the warm clothes, you forgot your canoe paddle, then the future could be affected and suffering, what appears to be suffering.
No, the suffering only comes, or the dissatisfaction only comes in the mind. It actually doesn't come from not having things. The dissatisfaction doesn't come from the body dying. The dissatisfaction when the body dies is actually wanting the body to keep living whenever it's ready to go.
Or if you want to help people, but you can't help them because you're going to cease to exist in this particular realm.
Right. So stop wanting to help people.
Sometimes people seem like they need help, but I don't know.
Well, even if people need help, wanting to help them doesn't help them. This is called taking the middleman out, right? Again, this is going back to our topic of what is noble speech. It's taking these middlemen out, cutting things out that we keep putting in. When you say, oh, I'm going to go to the beach, just say, oh, I'm going to go out. And you can even cut that out too and say, not sure where I'm going. I don't even know if I'm going yet.
The question I had is,
Yeah, go ahead, Lars.
like, noble speech doesn't always seem to include, like, not avoiding profanity or something like that. I know some people swear occasionally. Some people may all the time. Not necessarily Buddhist, but I don't know. Just something I was thinking about.
Well, it's up to each individual. Some, a noble may hear the word shit and not hear anything harsh about that. It's just a word at the end of the day. All words have these weird histories and origins, and who knows how that got there. One word may be offensive to another person and completely inoffensive to someone else.
It's just a word, yeah, words.
Yeah,
But then, like, noble speech is like, speech is important. Like,
well, what's important is to practice the Dhamma and to be friendly with one another. This is actually what helps create noble speech. Because when we recognize, pointing back to the Dhamma over and over and over again for ourselves and for others, this inspires confidence that, yes, I can change my speech and speak in a more noble fashion. Whether that means, it may mean removing profanities. It may mean removing things that we tend to say but not think much of, right? Buddhadasa would talk about how a noble can say things like I and you, but in their mind not mean it, not see any significance there. Just recognize it as being another tool in the toolbox, a cultural norm that we're just using to get along with others. If I go to 7-Eleven and they say, do you want a plastic bag? And then I say, there's no I here, not sure what you're talking about. That's going to create some friction. So that's an example where that may not be noble speech. Even to talk about the Dhamma can be seen as ignoble if we're not doing it mindfully. And what does it mean to do it mindfully? To be friendly about it. Of course, one of the easiest ways to practice noble speech is just by not saying much of anything at all, giving people a smile, a warm reminder that everything's okay. A great way to practice noble speech is just to tell people good morning. In fact, sitting on the porch here, Dhammarato and I, there's some days where we don't say much at all, but we do say good morning to each other. And that's really just a social norm that's completely unnecessary. But it's just a nice, friendly way to be, so we do it. Easy peasy. In fact, these easier ways of speaking is something that's worthwhile. Talking takes quite a lot of energy and burns calories even. And so what you're talking about, what you're saying, the phrases that you're using, are they really worthwhile? And this is true again for what kind of speech? The speech that we use inside the mind. The speech that we use inside the mind is reflected in the speech that we use in life. And the speech that we use in life reminds us to use noble speech within the mind. When we practice like this, the practice gets easier and easier and easier. And more enjoyable. There's the fruit right there. Eat it now. Don't have to go anywhere for the fruit. The fruit is here for you to enjoy right now. Yes, Deidre.
So would you say like the way you talk to yourself also reflects on the way you talk to others and vice versa?
Yes. And you may even see a reflection in the way that they change their speech as well, the people that you talk to. So there's all sorts of reflections happening. When you shine a light, it gets reflected all over the place.
Yeah. And if people are very judgmental, are always blaming others, and I always got the feeling, oh, all right, you might be blaming yourself as well. It's like they say, if you point one finger,
Right.
3 are pointing back. If you're like this, 3 points back to yourself.
Yeah. And really what you're doing is you're sticking your finger in a blender while it's still on.
Ouch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take your hand out of the blender. Yeah, don't need to point at people. I'm glad you brought that up. We often talk about monks do not criticize other monks. Honestly, it's worthwhile to get in the habit of not needing to criticize anyone. And in fact, even if you have, say, a friend that you're close with, who you do feel comfortable pointing something out to them, you can do it in a way that doesn't criticize them. But this takes creativity. This takes fun. This takes playfulness. It takes practice. And in fact, a lot of the ways that we speak is through the body, through the body's language. You know, there are different ways of saying good morning. If you walk in and you're surrounded by people and you say, good morning, that's not going to have much of an effect. In fact, it might ruin some people's moods. But if you walk in and you say, good morning, happy to see you. And this is really the noble perspective is it's not about what you say. And we can even take this to other areas. It's not about what you do. It's about how you do it. Are you doing it in a friendly way? Are you being mindful? Even if you are doing it in a friendly and mindful way, is there a more wholesome way to do it? That's the game to play. It's not about chasing perfection and saying, how can I be the most perfect, wholesome person I can possibly be? It's just enjoying the practice of applying the mind to the wholesome here and now. It's worthwhile to do because it's enjoyable. It has
Well, I
the
was
benefit of helping others, sure. But to be honest with you, a lot of Dhamma friends are selfish people. They come into this wanting to fix themselves, saying, "Oh, I'm broken." Yeah, go ahead, Lars. You had something you wanted to say.
people talk about constructive criticism and all, but so an example, I have a friend and she bought some land and she only has so much money and she thinks she's going to build a small house, but with all the different costs, it seems questionable that she's going to be able to accomplish it. But I can't really say that to her because she's very sensitive and would see it as entirely negative. But it's kind of like the same pattern that you see a lot of times. People kind of live in a imaginary world where they imagine reality a certain way, and you can't really tell them maybe that's not reality because they're not going to listen, they're not going to like it. And but that people talk about constructive criticism, and even if you think it's constructive, they may not see it that way.
Well, there's no such thing as constructive criticism. It's all destructive. There's people that believe in Santa Claus. Are you going to be the one to go tell them that Santa Claus isn't real?
Well, he doesn't have reindeer, but he was a real person.
Well, we're talking about the mythical, magical Santa Claus. Are you going to be the one to tell all the kids that Santa's not going to bring them their toys this year? That's the thing, right? Is you don't need to take people's toys away. You don't need to take away their imaginary friends. You don't need to take away their magical beliefs to start talking Dhamma with them or to give them friendly advice.
So you might think something is real, and they're going to tell you it's not real, but maybe they're wrong.
Well, I don't know what's real. If you stop thinking that something's real, then you won't have to get involved in that conversation to begin with. Yeah, they're building a house. So what? Is the house real? I don't know. It certainly isn't if they're still building it.
But if you work at a company, they'll always be saying, "Well, we're going to give you some constructive criticism,"
And they're lying to you. They say it's constructive criticism to make you feel better about it, right? And then they slap you across the face anyways. Artists especially, they love to use that word. It's, oh, I'd like to give you some constructive criticism. And really what they're saying is, I want to tear you apart. You and everything you stand for. Why? Because the artist knows that when another artist makes something, they put themselves into it. Same thing is true for people that build a house or whatever your job may be. People put themselves into their work and what they do. Yeah, it could go around and tell everybody, hey, the job you do doesn't matter. But that would upset a lot of people. And I don't have any reason to do that, nor do you. I'm not sure I should even be laughing at it, honestly, but the idea is just a bit funny. We don't need to go around taking things away from people. I mean, because the truth is that all of society is made up. This idea that you need money is a made up thing. This idea that there's scarcity is all made up. It's all just a big story. It's all mind games people have been telling one another, and then everyone goes along. I mean, the truth is that everybody believes in some sort of Santa Claus or Sky Daddy. And
It's like a
it's all
collective
their fault.
consciousness. You agree that go to
I didn't hear what you said, Lars. Lars, you may need to reconnect. Yeah. Can't hear you. But yeah, I mean, oh, now I can hear you. Go ahead.
I think of it as a collective consciousness in some way. Like there's like say like gold has value because people think it does, but
You
a lot of
don't need
people
to
think
think
it does.
about it that way. That's what we're saying. You don't need to concoct it as something, as, oh, it's a collective consciousness. Because there's the other perspective that, oh, it's all individual thoughts. It's all individual moments and, separate things that are all dominoes, interacting with one another, right? I mean, again, these are just views. The teaching is to not hold on to any views and to let that which is holding on, let that die. When we're talking about let you die, let the I, me, and my die, go to the deathless, that's what this means. Is to stop creating these concepts, is to stop thinking that there is a need to hold on to them. There's not a need to hold on to this concept that your boss is your boss even. Your boss is not your boss. That's just a title that someone gave him or her.
I guess people just go out live in the woods. You don't own the land, then somebody's going to come and remove you.
Yeah, because of a bunch of rules somebody else made up. Because of concepts. These people, they're playing along in this game, this imaginary game, this fairy tale, this story that Santa Claus came along and gave somebody some land rights, and now you're going to get kicked out of it and get a pile of coal. And what we're saying is that you don't have to take away people's game that they're playing. You don't have to take away people's toys, their magical beliefs.
But
And
you
in
can
fact,
analyze the game.
you're to leave that stuff alone and to say, I'm not going to stick my hand in the blender. I'm not going to get involved with that. I don't need to go be on someone's land where I'm not welcome, where they have these made up rules that it's their land and yada, yada, yada. A noble mind can recognize that and can see that, oh, not every other mind is going to be noble. Because, yeah, if it was, yeah, we wouldn't be even talking about whose land is whose. Yeah, go ahead, Deidre.
Yeah, I don't know if this applies to you, Lars, but I had always this big identity of wanting to help everybody and get them out of the gutter and whatever they're unhappy. And finally, I realized that it was really me wanting them to be happy. So it's my longing. And sometimes you just have to let them, allow them to create their experiences, because that's where they grow and that's where they learn. And if you take that from them, if people have no money, they're broke or whatever, of course, there's no need to be unfriendly or whatever. But if you come with a lesson like you should do this like that, and I'm going to help you, I'm going to be your savior. Actually, you're not doing them a favor, and you're not doing yourself a favor, because you're going to be the one they're going to call and rely on all the time when it goes wrong. There's a lesson to be learned, and let them learn it. I mean, don't let them die. I mean, you can give them food or whatever, or of course you can help them. There's nothing wrong being friendly, but wanting to save them is another thing. That's something from you and not from them.
That's exactly right. Thank you so much for that, Deidre. Aurelian, go ahead. You have something to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, rather than trying to teach them by like saying stuff to them, just show them how joyful right practice is. Show them how happy you can get by practicing right. Yeah, I always love reminding myself that. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, that was well put. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks. Yeah, even in that example, like someone's trying, your friend wants to build a house, Lars, and you're not sure it's possible. We don't know. You don't know. Maybe it is possible. Maybe things are always changing. Maybe something will change and she'll build the house and then it'll be fine. Like, not sure, not certain, don't know. Like,
Yeah, I do pray for her every day that she can live there, but there's reasons to have doubts. But yeah, I do pray about it. Hope it works out.
Yeah, you don't need to pray for her. The house may fall apart, and if she's living in it, then it's a good thing that she's not there. That's the thing is, people get involved in trying to build a house or buy a house, and they try to carry the house on their back, and it crushes them. Sometimes financially, sometimes physically. Sometimes both.
Well, I
So
mean,
it's
you think
necessarily-
life has a purpose.
This actually goes back to what we were talking about with the future versus the now, is it's not necessarily a good thing for your friend to get a house. Not saying it's a bad thing, just saying don't know. Let go. Let go. Let go of the me, the my, the I that's saying, I know what would be better. I know what would be right. I know what's going to help. Because you don't know. And it's actually easier to enjoy life not knowing. Because it's also the truth. We're not just lying to ourselves and saying, "Oh yeah, I don't know," but secretly we do know. No, it's you don't know. Don't have to get involved in that. Don't have to stick my hand in that blender. When we start worrying about people, we're giving ourselves a job to do. And now that person is our boss. So be your own boss. And the thing to tell yourself is, take it easy, man. Hey, take 5. Right now. Take 10. Take 15. I don't care if you come back. Oh, you're going? Oh, I don't care about that either. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to say for today's talk?
I'll say when we're considering the future, yeah, it's just a concept, right? And it's not necessary most of the time to dwell on the future. What Dhammarato says, I like this quote that he says is, all we have to do is take care of this moment. And if we can take care of this moment, then the future will take care of itself. Moment by moment, if you can take care of your mind in this moment, then the outside world, the future will take care of itself. So just take care of this moment as well as you can, as wholesome as you can, as joyful as you can. And that's your only task. That's my only task personally, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, David. And really the idea that, do good actions for the future, that's the type of thing, that is a teaching that's given to ordinary people, or that is an ordinary teaching. That is a teaching for people that are unable to understand for one reason or another, that you can make a change now and be in the here and now. You can stop being reborn right now. So did anybody else have something they wanted to say before we wrap things up? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. This is my first time hosting a Dhamma call. It was very enjoyable. I'm really glad to have so many happy, wholesome friends. If you guys ever need anything or want to chat one-on-one, feel free to reach out. And for people watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe and like and leave a comment. Check out opensanghafoundation.org and have a good one. All right, take it easy, everyone.
Thanks, Mikey. Thanks, everyone. Laters.
Bye,
Great.
guys. Thank you.
Ever need anything or want to chat?